Take me out to the ball game. Take me out with the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. I don't care if I ever get back, 'cause it's root for the home team. They don't win, it's a shame, 'cause it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game.
Welcome to Let's Get Two, the baseball podcast from the fans' perspective. Now here's your host, James Christopher.
And welcome to Let's Get Two. I am your host, James Christopher. We have a great episode planned for you today. We're going to talk to a guy who makes replica stadiums out of paper, and another guy who made a Dodger stadium in his backyard. And then we're going to talk to our team of the week, the Buffalo Bisons. But before we jump into that, I do want to talk a little bit about what's going on in our country, and in particular, the reaction to the murder of George Floyd. Now, George Floyd's murder isn't something new. It isn't something that just happened. It isn't the first time that we've seen something like this before. It is the result of centuries of institutional racism. It is the result of the abhorrent treatment of African Americans in our country. And whatever the opinions of what's happened in the aftermath, I have mine. The fact remains true that much of what we're seeing is the pent-up anger and fear from a percentage of people that we have told through our institutions and through much of our national history that they are not the same as us. When you're talking about something like this that is historical in nature, I've always said that point of view matters. You need to know where I'm coming from. I am the son of a police officer, proudly. I have very good friends that serve in a myriad of police departments all over this country. I know them to be good people who do it for the right reasons. And being the son of a policeman, I know very well the fear when I was growing up that, dad might not come home. And I'd heard about stories about policemen getting shot, and I watched my mom worry. And having been in the military, I understand sometimes the moments where you have to make a split-second decision, them or me. And if you make the wrong one, it's something you likely carry for the rest of your life. Kneeling on a man's neck while he begs for his life until he dies is not a split-second decision. It is not a him or me. It is not it's a dark alley. I don't know where his hands are and I want to go home to my new kid. That's not that. So we need to agree that that's not the same thing. That watching that video is one of the most abhorrent things that I have ever seen in my life. And it was especially heartbreaking for me because, again, much to do with my growing up and the color of my skin, quite frankly, my relationship with police officers, what I think of them is that they are helpers, that they are people you turn to trust. And I know that isn't the reality for lots of people. What I hope to see happen is that we finally make a move to change the way policing happens in this country. In the last 10 years, the militarization of the police departments, and really, it really is the last 10 years that you've seen that happen, has utterly changed the way policing happens. And I think we need to take a turn toward community policing. Now, there are going to be people who listen to this show who think that I am completely off base, that I am a liberal shill who is trying to take away responsibility from people. To them, I would say, I'm certainly not a liberal shill, because if we're up to me, I give all 4 of them the death penalty. So I've already upset half my liberal friends. I'm a very complicated person. The need to go and understand the problem of marginalized communities. We have to make life safer, not just for them, but for our officers. When I hear people say, I know some cops are good cops. One, I think it does a drastic disservice to the vast majority of police officers who put on a uniform. Now, we can talk about how society has never done right by the people that we put on the front lines to solve society's ills. Okay? Police, nurse, teachers. We ask them to deal with things that society is often slow to develop on, and to do it for very little money, to do it with very little resources to support them while overly questioning the way that they do things. But in the matter of how we police, it has to change, if anything, to save police officers' lives and to make them also feel safer. The way it should work is that a police officer needs to be part of its community. It needs to be the kind of thing where all people are listened to, all people are heard, and all people should feel comfortable approaching a police officer. And so when you are a cop and you put on that uniform, and that uniform that is, I remember in Houston, they used to have the brighter blue, and I hate the darker blue because the darker blue looks foreboding. The lighter blue felt friendlier. It felt like you could go talk to this person. But when you put on a uniform that says, trust me, I'm here to protect you. And then when you arrest a man who did not look to be resisting and then was unable to resist, and you kneel on his neck and you kill him in front of however many people and on video, you violated that trust. And I can't understand. Like, that's the thing, right? I can't understand. I don't know what it's like to be pulled over and know that I have a higher likelihood of death because of my color of my skin. I don't know what that's like. And then I go a step further by putting had the word veteran put on my driver's license. So I don't know what that's like. I can do my best to listen and to have empathy for those people that does affect that way. And the fact of the matter is, we all need to get there. I just can't. I wish that everyone saw a police officer the same way that I do, or the same way that I won't even say used to, because I still don't believe that what we're dealing with is a majority problem. I think what we're dealing with are institutions that need to be fixed and changed, and in many ways, those institutions, their negative influence on minority communities in this country far outreach just how police operate. But I think I just wish that people could see them the same way I do. As helpers, as people that are, the famous line in 9/11 when they were talking about the police and firemen was that they were running the opposite direction. That's to me what I see. And so I think that the only way to get there is to change the way we police. And part of that is more transparency in a situation where there is no universe where the fear for my life excuse or reason that is often touted matters or is real. There's just there's nothing about that. Again, there are times when it is, and there's times when you can listen to that and you have to take yourself out of your own theoretical world and say, yeah, I imagine if I were an officer by myself and it was dark and we had just chased a guy and this had happened. Like that's a conversation that you can have. Kneeling on a guy until he's dead is not. And so we have to listen better. Again, I'm coming to you as a white guy with I don't even know how many people are going to listen to this or care. I'm sure that they'll have fewer listeners now, and you know what? Good. More room for everyone else. I don't think it's worse that way with internet radio and TV, but I'm not necessarily here to kowtow to make sure that I don't upset possible listeners by expressing the fact that on the one hand, I understand how charged an event can be. Again, having been in the military in shoot, don't shoot situations and trying to make the best possible decisions and sometimes being right and sometimes being wrong. And also understanding that not every situation is that. And the safest thing for everyone involved is for us to make sure that the right people are serving as our police officers, serving and protecting, and that the wrong ones are not. And one of the quickest ways to do that is when there are moments that that need to be dealt with, that they are dealt with quickly, that they are dealt with swiftly and justly, but that they're dealt with. You know, it rips me apart to watch all of it on the news, to watch the protesting, to watch the rioting, and then to watch the protesters say, hey, listen, we came to protest the thing. We don't know who you are burning buildings, but stop because you're making everything look bad. And that's the truth. You know, and I gleaned the little humanities, like about the officer that got separated from his unit in a pretty violent crowd and members of Black Lives Matter surrounding him so he would be safe. Like to me, that's the positive to glean from all of this, but we got to fix it. We just have to. You know, so we are going to get back to baseball because that's why you're here. It's why I'm here. And, but I want to get back to baseball. But I want to get back to baseball with what baseball means, right? Baseball is the thing that we're all supposed to come together. We're all supposed to let baseball heal the wounds that we have. But we can't live in peace and we can't have freedom unless every single member of this country, Black and white and Asian and Hispanic and LGBTQ, all of them feel like they can enjoy the same freedoms we have and live in the same peace that we have. You know, case in point, minor league baseball, because it's Pride Month, and we are going to be talking about pride and how it fits into baseball this month. But MILB today set their logo with the rainbow logo. And of course, already there are people, it's like a time capsule from last year when they did it. You know, my favorite part of a baseball game, I talked about this before, is the anthem. And I remember when Colin Kaepernick was kneeling. And those of you who think I'm doing revisionist history, you are happy to go check my Facebook posts because I said this a million times. But there was always this idea that he was being anti-veteran. And I never saw that. I never bought that. Because America means a lot of things to a lot of different people. I think most of them good. I think the people that are floating here on rafts made out of mattresses and stuff will tell you that it's a good. But the flag also means a lot of other things to a lot of other people. And people would always ask me, are you offended as a veteran? And the answer was no. I don't like that Colin Kaepernick, for example, felt the need to kneel during the anthem. I don't think that he was being disrespectful to my friends who did not come home, to my friends that are being shot at now. I think that he was expressing his constitutional right that there's a problem in this country. So I don't like that he was kneeling, but more importantly, I don't like the fact that he had to kneel. And so, yeah, I want to get back to baseball. And again, I want baseball to be what I think it can be, a unifying event. And I want everyone to feel like they can feel proud to stand for the flag and appreciate the fact that America, while complicated and always a work in progress, is at least working towards that progress.
This just in. News from minor league baseball.
So we do have some breaking news today. The Players Union has released their counteroffer to the owners for a new season. And essentially it is the same pay that they already agreed to before 114 games. They're potentially going to defer salary as they need to if there's no postseason. I don't know really how this falls. To me, it seems like a nice meet in the middle. Yeah, the same amount of pay we already agreed to, but we're offering you 25 more games, which seems like 25 more opportunities to be on TV, 25 more opportunities to do things like maybe possibly have seats or sell seats. And I know Texas is opening up the idea of 25% capacity at sports stadiums. So the owners apparently have already dismissed it out of hand. I don't know how much longer we can keep doing this. It is now June 1st, as he dramatically looks at his clock. And June 1st means that apparently we were supposed to start spring training in a week and then start the season on the first weekend of July. So who knows what this means? To me, it seems like a nice meet in the middle from the players. The owners, I guess the ball is in their court, in their dugout, bullpen, something. I do also want to shame the Washington Nationals. And no, I'm not shaming them because they beat the Astros in the World Series, although the Astros did have agreed to pay their minor leaguers and have first of all, they cut fewer players this year than last year and are paying their players to the end of August. The Washington Nationals have decided to not pay their players, even though the family who owns the Nationals is worth $5 billion. So, I don't know what to say about that, but it seems like you're already drastically underpaying your minor leaguers anyway. If you're worth $5 billion, I just don't know what they're doing. I don't know what the owners are doing. I don't know what the players are doing with all of this. Like right now, our country's literally on fire. And it seems like baseball has an opportunity to bring some people together at a time when we really need it. I thought we needed it a week ago. We really need it now. And I can't understand any of this and how they just don't care about the optics of it all. And maybe it's because I'm naive and they just don't care. I don't know, but it's completely disturbing. And I just hope we figure out something because we really need baseball right now.
Raiders of the Lost Diamond, a look into baseball's past.
And so welcome to our Raiders of the Lost Diamond segment. So for those of you who haven't seen this show yet, or this is your first experience with the baseball show that we do, Raiders of the Lost Diamond is one of my favorite segments. It's where I take the opportunity to research a baseball team that isn't playing anymore. And for those of you watching online, you can see that I'm wearing a t-shirt from Ebbets Field Flannels for the Hollywood Stars, and they are our focus today. So the Hollywood Stars were a PCL team brought into LA in the early 1900s to be a crosstown rival for the then PCL Los Angeles Angels. The Stars got their start in 1903 as the Sacramento Salons when the PCL was first formed. Now, before landing in Los Angeles, this team traveled everywhere. They spent some time as the Tacoma Tigers, the Fresno Raisin Eaters. That's a team I want brought back, by the way. The San Francisco Missions, the first iteration, and then the Salt Lake City Bees before moving to Los Angeles. Now, as an aside, I love that so many of these team names get recycled to really honor the heritage of the teams of the city's baseball past, even if it's a different organization at the time. Now, even though they called themselves the Hollywood Stars, they started their career in LA in the same stadium of and as tenants of the Los Angeles Angels in Wrigley Field. Yes, that's right, Chicago Cubs fans. Not only is Wrigley Field not originally a Cubs stadium, but as we learned, the Chicago Whales, there wasn't even only just one in Chicago. It's not that original. Get a roof. It's cold there. The issue with their location, though, is even though they were in Hollywood, they were in way South LA. And so there just wasn't much interest, even though the team was actually pretty good, and they ended up relocating. Now, another team that would eventually become the Hollywood Stars started in 1909. That's right. It'd take them about 30 years to get there, but just like everyone else, they all get on a bus and move to Hollywood with a hope and a dream. Sometimes it doesn't work out. Most of the time it doesn't work out. So at one point, this new team played as the Vernon Tigers. They also were the San Francisco Missions at some point, and then ended up becoming the Hollywood Stars in 1938. And the team was pretty cool because they had a team part ownership of Gary Cooper, Barbara Stanwyck, and Bing Crosby. So Hollywood Stars actually owned the Hollywood Stars. The team was immediately more successful as far as bringing in fans for the simple reason that they actually played in Hollywood at Gilmore Field. However, in 1957, two things would kill them. One, Gilmore Field was owned by CBS and they wanted the land to build a new studio. And then the long-awaited knife to the heart of everyone in Brooklyn finally happened when the Brooklyn Dodgers moved west. And that's why we can still hear people who were not even born when that happened complain about it. So the Stars actually changed the game forever. They were one of the first ones to broadcast most of their games on local TV, including a pre- and post-game show. They were the first team credited to start dragging the infield dirt in the fifth inning as a way to create more time to go to the concession stand. And thanks to Hall of Fame executive Branch Rickey, they were the first team to wear a batting helmet. Now ain't that a kick in the head?
Who's on first? The Let's Get Two Team of the Week.
So we're excited to welcome to our Team of the Week section, the Buffalo Bisons and Pat Malacaro. He is the voice of the Bisons. Pat, how's it going?
Doing well here in Buffalo right now. Kind of, chomping at the bit to hopefully have baseball soon, but doing well up here, thanks.
I want you guys, first of all, to thank not only Austin, Texas, and not only St. Michael's Catholic Academy, but St. Austin's Catholic School for one Mitch Morris, your starting center for the Buffalo Bills, and one of my former students. How about that for a connection?
That's pretty neat. I didn't know that. So yeah, that's pretty awesome. And I know up here, folks are looking forward to hopefully a Bills season this year. I know the governor the other day was in town and saying how much he'd love to see football this year. So hopefully another playoff run is in Mitch's future. I
hope so too. Yeah, it was funny. I used to teach him when he was in middle school and then ended up at the same high school teaching there. And he was a beanpole when I had him, and this huge dude came in to say hi. And I was like, I don't know who you are, but please stay on the other end of the classroom. So, but anyway, back to America's pastime, baseball. Pat, tell me a little bit about just how you got into baseball and some of the broadcasters that kind of influenced you. What I love about baseball is the old adage is that it is the game you see on the radio. So just a little bit about how you got into the sport and some of the influences you had calling baseball games.
Yeah, I've been working for the Bisons and in baseball for on and off for the last 20 years, to be honest. It started out as a summer job. I had an aunt who worked in the front office at the time. And in my freshman year of high school, kind of just said, I think it'd be fun to work at the ballpark in the summer. While I didn't have anything going on. And that led to me helping out in the clubhouse as a bat boy for my 4 years of high school. So doing that and getting to be around the game more. I played it my whole life. I played sports my whole life, different sport every season. And baseball was just something that it was a chance to get involved in the business side of it when I was in high school, and really just enjoyed being in that clubhouse atmosphere and being around the players and being around all the different personalities and the different stories that were being told, and knew that it was something I wanted to be a part of, whether it be baseball, just sports in general, working in sports through my 4 years working in the clubhouse. And then as an intern on the radio broadcast for 2 years, which included the last Bison championship in 2004, really decided that sports broadcasting was the way I wanted to go. So I'm a Newhouse guy in Syracuse University. So through classes there, kind of worked my way up. And now this would have been my third year as the lead voice of the Bisons. But I've been working as a broadcaster for the team for more than 10 of those 20 years. So it's been a long path. It's been something I've enjoyed. And as somebody who grew up here in Buffalo and really only left to go to college, it's been a huge thrill to be working for the team and working with a group that really that's how our front office is pretty much all people that are born and raised on Bison baseball, and it's something that's pretty neat to be a part of.
What's really cool about the brand. So, I grew up, I'm a Houston kid. Didn't really know anything about minor league baseball until I married a woman from San Antonio. They grew up as Missions fans. And then as my film journey kind of grew, I would go to film festivals and I would find ball games, and it kind of fell in love with minor league baseball there. I love the fact that you're from Buffalo, because you can answer this question better than most of the people that we've interviewed on the show. What do the Bisons mean to the community of Buffalo?
It means a great deal. And it's one of the things that we realized early on and you have to go back to the early 90s, because Bob and Mindy Rich, our owners who own Rich Products Corporation, tried to bring Major League Baseball to Buffalo. And right at the expansion, when Miami and Denver ended up getting the franchises, Buffalo was in the conversation. There were Major League meetings happening, on presentations on what a franchise would look like. And they went through the process. And Buffalo, unfortunately or fortunately, however you want to look at it, did not get a team. But that was a rallying point. And I think from there, community in the sense of being a part of Western New York and providing something to the overall community is something we take very seriously and take as a big point of pride. And I think you see that in a lot of our promotions. Like our wing race or Friday night bashes, which every home Friday night we have fireworks. And those are things that people in Western New York, when it comes to summertime, really look forward to. We've had July 3rd be our staple night in our Independence Day celebrations. That's been an event that we get the Buffalo Philharmonic Orchestra, we sell out the ballpark, but it's a celebration. And I think those are all the things that people in Western New York have come to expect from us. And I think because we're all from this area, it just comes pretty naturally and pretty genuine from all those different aspects that we try and give back to.
So I know where I'll be spending Independence Day next year. Good. Thanks for the tip. But it has been. So like I said, you guys, the brand first caught me, the look of it. And I think last year on MILB TV, I must have watched 15 of your games. So again, I'm not a Blue Jays guy. My best friend's from Toronto. Something about it just grabbed me. And one of the things that I've noticed is how much your organization has stepped up now. Like, obviously we are in a lot of uncertainty. We don't know when baseball's coming back, but it feels like the Bisons have made this real effort on social media to make sure the community still feels connected to the team and to each other. How important is that for you guys, knowing the uncertainty we're all living in?
Yeah, I'm glad you noticed that, and I'm thankful that you've kept up with that. And it goes back to community. And some of the first things, and we've been working from home for about 10 weeks now, even before New York State went on their pause order from the governor here, and we kind of took this a step-by-step process and looked at it and said, okay, what is our role in knowing we're such an important fabric of the community? What are the things that Bison fans love the most? And even if it's just to give them 2 minutes on a Friday night to just sit back and just look at some fireworks from a past show, it's something we've done early on. And we've been doing that every week since everybody has been working from home. Or, fans have come to love the wing race, the WCC race that we have here. And, how do we get that out to kids and allow them to see that again? And just on our website, what are different things we can do with activities while kids are learning from home? Maybe kids never knew how to calculate a batting average or a slugging percentage or all those different things about baseball that a lot of us just have come to know and accept. But we've taken those and tried to use them as learning opportunities. So it goes back to community, and it goes back to how we can best do our part. And I think we've tried to do that in a way that not only benefits everybody else, but also can benefit us as well, and how we can learn from others through this time as well.
Yeah, that's one of the things I was curious about too. Is one of the things that I kind of love about minor league baseball is there's very much as one GM put it to me last year, you're not in competition. I mean, obviously on field competition, but like the Rochester Red Wings, you guys really aren't competing for audience. It's not, you guys are entertainers at heart. You're competing with other, entertainment options in Buffalo. So how much do you kind of look at what's going on around the MILB and borrow and beg and steal from each other as far as ideas to keep people engaged?
Yeah, I think it's very important. And I think you can look at, just the different promotions over the last handful of years that have taken off throughout baseball, whether it be, the addition of some of the programs like Copa de la Diversión and something that we're, looking forward to taking part in the future, or, something as simple as, every place has their favorite food items. And that's become a staple of minor league promotions over the last handful of years and become a point of pride. So, we look at all those different things and, maybe we saw a video that somebody created and we thought it was pretty neat. And we wanted to find a way to put our own spin on it. A lot of teams did the thank you videos or, the community videos very early on. And we did one right around opening day where we tipped our caps, such a form of expression in baseball. So that was our way of kind of seeing what everybody else was doing and saying, okay, we need to take part in this as well. And how do we do it with our spin? Because, I guess we all borrow from each other, but we all put our own unique spin on it. So that's something we've looked for and tried to make it very Bisons centric.
Wow, that sounds awesome. And the sad, disappointing thing for me on a personal level, obviously it's hard to be sad about missing a baseball game with the idea of COVID happening, but this was actually the second year in a row that my trip to Buffalo or plans for Buffalo had to be canceled for one reason or another. Next year, I will be there for July 4th. Pat, thank you so much for being on Let's Get Two, and thank you so much for supporting the community of Buffalo.
It's great chatting with you. Look forward to seeing you here next year.
From the bleachers, the Let's Get Two Game of the Week.
All right, so we're excited to welcome the Let's Get Two in our From the Bleachers segment. We don't actually have bleachers to come from because no one's playing baseball, except that Ben Masse got the next best thing by building his backyard. We're going to talk to the guy who built a replica of Dodger Stadium in his backyard. Ben, thanks for being on Let's Get Two.
All right.
So tell me a little bit about yourself, man. How did you get into baseball? What are some of your favorite baseball memories growing up?
So I grew up in Massachusetts, and I grew up a Red Sox fan. Huge Red Sox fan, diehard. When they won in 2004, I was in high school. I think I was a sophomore, and it was probably the coolest experience as a fan. And then as I got older, I started to appreciate the game as a whole more than an individual team, and I started following different players specifically. And that's what partially led me to the Dodgers. Jackie Robinson was my favorite player of all time. Mm-hmm. And a couple of the articles that you might have seen, I did a research project on him later on in high school. And then Matt Kemp became my favorite player in the later 2000s, obviously Kershaw. And that's what got me really starting to watch the Dodgers on a regular basis and kind of fell in love with the franchise. I actually only played baseball up until I was like 11 or 12 years old. I played soccer all through high school, college, and then I became a soccer coach at the college level and at the club level. And that's what I do now. But baseball, I think I would say is my favorite sport to watch for sure.
It's interesting. Yeah, you talked about Jackie Robinson being your favorite player. And I think that's what I like the most about baseball is one of my favorite players is Roberto Clemente. Guys, neither of you and I did not see play.
Right.
But I think baseball more than anything, the history passes through.
Sure does. Yeah. And, I talked to my dad a lot about baseball too. And he actually got a chance to meet Jackie Robinson, came to his high school when he was in high school in Holyoke, at Holyoke High. And so I just, to listen to people's stories about players, individuals, watching them play or even outside the sport, I think makes baseball unique in that sense.
So you, obviously a big fan, and now we're facing this weird pandemic thing. It was supposed to be a really, for our show, I think I had 20 ballpark trips scheduled and purchased and tickets. I was going to do my very first Yankee Stadium trip. My very first. I was going to go watch my Astros at the Mets and try to get a little exorcism for 1986, that moment that still haunts me. And now there's nothing. At what point did you say, I'm going to build essentially a wiffle ball field of Dodger Stadium in your backyard?
Well, first, it's funny that you say that you were going to go to watch the Astros at Citi Field, because I was going to be there this weekend to see the Dodgers play at Citi Field. That obviously is not going to happen.
It's not happening, yeah.
So when I was in high school, my friend Mike and I, best friend, we would play wiffle ball all the time, every day almost. And it was at my dad's house, and his fence had fallen over. The storm came through, and his fence had sort of collapsed. And we had a dog that was kept in from the fence, but this dog had passed away. So there's really no need for the fence. So I took the fence that collapsed and I repurposed it into a makeshift wiffle ball wall. And it was not anything like the new one that I built. Yeah. But I've been playing wiffle ball for a long time. Played in a couple tournaments when I was in college just for fun. And then just talking with those friends again, said, God, it would be cool to have somewhere to play. Now there was a strike zone that existed in the yard already, but there was no fence. There was some tall shrubbery that we would use as the fence, but it was pretty hard to hit one over them. So it started almost like a joke, let's build a cool wall. We can model it after one of the MLB stadiums. And I said, well, then it's got to be Dodger Stadium,
right?
And so I, from jokingly talking about it, I sketched up some ideas, and that led to doing some research on a materials list. And then one day, because of the boredom that had set in,
right,
went and made a run to Home Depot and came home with, I would say, 70% of what I needed. There was a few more trips that that needed to take place, as is the case with most Home Depot projects, I think. And my wife was very supportive. She told me, I'm not going to tell you can't do it. So to me, that was her gung-ho way to say, yeah, build it. I would really love to have a wiffle ball stadium in the backyard. Right. And her dad helped me construct it and made it a lot more sturdy, outside of just a few posts and a few boards up on it. And then my wife actually did all the painting on it. So
that's so cool.
She gets credit for that. The original idea was to paint the retired numbers on the wall. Really difficult to not have the paint spread all over. Yeah. And so I tried a couple of those and it didn't work out. So what I did was I ended up creating them on Photoshop. It was actually Adobe Illustrator, and got them printed at Staples, had them laminated, and then that's what's up there now. So they're being held up by Velcro, so they can actually come down with the storm, if a storm comes through, just so they don't get ruined. And then I think the icing on the cake was the American flag pole that goes up in the middle. That was sort of a last minute, just doing a little bit more research. What else can we add to this thing? And I found a cool flagpole for like $40. And that can also come down for a storm. So we built a little holder for it. Every morning the flag goes up, every sundown the flag comes down. So that's a cool thing.
How long from start to now you're baseball famous did it take you to get the whole thing built?
Well, we started, so the idea maybe a month and a half ago.
Wow.
Was when we started talking about it. And then from the time that I got the first materials before the second and third and fourth trips was probably about a month ago. I think about a month on and off. I'm a teacher. And so we originally, when we first were social distancing, there was sort of we don't know. We'll wait and see. We don't know what the students are going to be asked to do. And so I have a co-teacher. My co-teacher and I, we supplied work for students, but it was more to just keep them busy as opposed to this is going to drive them for the rest of the year. And then a couple weeks after, 2-3 weeks after the quarantine started, we got word, and I think all across the country, teachers got word that students were going to have to learn new things and be responsible for mastering standards. And so on top of building the stadium, there was that extra work. So it wasn't obviously straight through. It was on and off, a little bit here, a little bit there. If it's nice out, let's go out and get some work done.
Are you by far the most popular teacher at your school? You have to be.
I think, yeah. I mean, I think we care about our students,
Yeah.
Which helps. I work with a lot of really great teachers, though. The school is filled with people who I've learned a lot from. So yeah, I think I get along with the baseball players. That's for sure.
I bet you do. So how much of it was just like research, or was it just from memory that when you made the design for the park? Because it looks so good, man. Like,
thank you. So what I would look up a picture of the wall, and I wanted to get the colors right. So I knew that the wall wasn't a true Dodger blue. It wasn't that royal blue. It was like a pale blue, powder blue, not unlike the color of your hat.
Oh.
And I know that because my wife and I, she took me to Dodger Stadium 2 years ago for our anniversary, and we took a tour. And part of the tour, one of the coolest little tidbits from the tour was that the color scheme of Dodger Stadium comes from Disneyland in Tomorrowland. It's the same color scheme that they had when Dodger Stadium opened, because Walt Disney helped them design the stadium. And so I wanted to make sure that we got those colors right. And I call them scoreboards, but the two pieces that go above the wall, I knew that I wanted to do and have them cut the right way. So I would say that almost none of it was done strictly from memory. There was memories of the stadium, of course, but all of it had some sort of photo research to actually make it come to fruition. And
now you're world famous. You're on, first of all, America's favorite culturally based baseball podcast that mostly focuses on minor league baseball. But I mean, MLB.com has written about you.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me too, by the way. This is great.
You're very welcome. How has that part of it been, to kind of getting a little notoriety for this?
It happened really fast.
Yeah.
So I had been just sending updates as I'd been working to friends that either play wiffle ball or that I work with, just so they knew what I was working on. And look, it's coming out pretty good, from start to finish. But I didn't want to post anything really until it was completed. My father-in-law would take pictures of it and of us playing while it was still being built and stuff. So he was actually driving a lot of what was being posted publicly. And then when it was finished, I said, okay, I'm going to wait for a nice day, nice blue sky, go out and take some really quality pictures. And then I said, who will get a kick out of it is the Dodgers fans. So I'm going to post it to the Dodgers fan club page on Facebook. And that was really I posted it there, and I posted it on my own Facebook page so that my friends could see it. From being posted on the Dodgers fan club page, it got a lot of likes, a lot of comments. A guy named Luis Gilbert messaged me, similar to how you did. And he is a writer for Con las bases llenas, which translates to with the bases full. Mm-hmm. And it's primarily for the Latino players and Spanish speaking baseball fans. But he asked if he could write an article on it. He asked me some questions, gave him the replies. We had a little Facebook interview. He posted it really quickly right away. From there, shortly after that, MLB had put it on their, I think they had posted on their Facebook. And then I think either late last night or early this morning, I saw that ESPN and Bleacher Report had picked it up. And then just recently, within the last few hours, I saw that the LA Times had written a full article on it, which is pretty cool.
That is so incredibly cool. I also want to thank you personally, because you can see behind you my hobby. The next time my wife complains, I'll be like, well, I'm about to start building Minute Maid Park in the backyard. Would you rather that or this? And she'll be happy with the hats.
Love it.
Ben, thanks so much for being on Let's Get Two. It's been a real pleasure talking to you, and keep the faith, man. We'll have baseball soon. Real quick before we bounce, though, what do you think of this concept of no fans? Are you down with it, or you just want baseball, or do you feel like, because as a Dodgers fan, you got to feel like this was your year. Mookie, the whole bit.
Yeah, no, it's a tough year to not have baseball. Of course, no fans is not ideal, but I think no fans with baseball is better than no baseball.
Yeah.
So I am crossing my fingers and my toes, hoping that we get some baseball in, and hopefully soon. It sounds like I'm pretty optimistic. It sounds like the discussions are headed in the right way, and hopefully both sides can agree to something. At least, if they're talking an 82 game schedule, I think if that comes through, I'd be happy with that.
I would take,
like you said, but just to watch baseball. I've been watching the Korean League too, just to
me too.
Get up at 5 a.m. just to watch something.
Yeah. I would take one of those weird, like when we were kids and you'd play those tournaments and just watch them all drink lemonade in the stands for a weekend. I would take that. Ben, thanks so much for being on Let's Get Two. We really appreciate it, man.
Yeah. Actually, I'll show you really quick, just out the window.
Out the window.
There it is.
There it is. Your Let's Get Two exclusive. That is beautiful, man. You did a great job. Thank you so much.
On deck, the Let's Get Two interview of the week, brought to you by Fine Line Sportswear.
We're excited to welcome to Let's Get To Trey. He goes by Paper Stadiums on Twitter. Trey, how's it going, man? Welcome to the show.
Pretty good. How are you doing?
Doing good. So I got to be honest. Your work is amazing. I first found out about you from your Astrodome thing. Like about 8 people, none of a big Astros fan, were like, "Oh my God, check this out." How did you get into making scale modeled stadiums out of paper?
So the story goes is, as a kid, I was obsessed with stadiums. Like I love sports. I love drawing, and I would draw stadiums all the time. And through this, I've come to find out that there's a lot of people that did that when they were kids. But so I did stadiums a lot when I was a kid. And then about 2 or 3 years ago, I was just looking for a hobby, and drawing them just wasn't enough for some reason. So I started making some models out of cardboard. And eventually I found that paper was a lot easier to work with. So I could build model stadiums without this being an expensive hobby, And then eventually I went from just making up stadiums to the first one I modeled was Rosenblatt Stadium, where the College World Series used to be in Omaha. And then it's evolved. I've done Memorial Stadium for Nebraska, where I went to school, and then Wrigley Field, Yankee Stadium, Astrodome. I'm working on Candlestick Park. And now I just got like orders for all these stadiums, and it's kind of taken off. It's been a lot of fun.
So I wanted to ask that part of it. So whenever people were messing me the Astrodome thing, and I was like, "Oh, I'm going to get this guy on the show," and they were all like, "Ask him this or ask him that." One of the questions I got was, why did you decide to do the dome before they took the big scoreboard down?
Oh man, every single time I posted a picture, somebody made that comment. My gosh. So I had no idea that was a polarizing topic. I've never actually been to Houston, and so obviously I've never been to the Astrodome, didn't know a whole lot about it. It was just, I was looking at a list of stadiums of what I wanted to do next, and it snapped as soon as I saw Astrodome. So when I started making it, and I made the post-renovation version without the big scoreboard and everything, and one of the first things I just started seeing is that comment. I had no idea that was a big deal. And if I could go back in time, I would have done pre-renovation. I would have made the big scoreboard and everything, but I just had no idea that everybody cared about it that much, and that the renovation was, like I said, such a polarizing topic. And it had to be thousands of comments of people telling me, should have done pre-renovation. Hindsight 2020, I wish I had, but here we are.
I tell you what, it's so ingrained in us that the artist Poot who does a lot of the minimalist thing, he did what the World Series trophy would have looked like on that scoreboard, and I have it hanging in my office. I was like, we're fired up about it. So what have you learned by doing this? Like doing these researching of the stadiums, what are some of the cool things you've maybe learned about some of the places you're researching?
Well, that's what's been really fun is like, I thought I knew all this stuff about stadiums because, like I said, I've been obsessed with stadiums my whole life for 30 years. You think you know all this stuff, and then you sit down and you start working on the Astrodome. And not only do you learn stuff doing your own research, but then people comment on stuff. And I actually didn't know about the exploding scoreboard. Like I thought I knew all about the Astrodome. I didn't know it had this amazing scoreboard for the first 30 years of its life. So that was one of the things, just watching that and knowing how far ahead of its time that was. And then there's other stuff from other stadiums that you learn about, like Wrigley Field, when I was building Wrigley Field, I found out that at some point they split it into 3 parts and moved 2 of the grandstands to make it bigger. So it's just like all these just fascinating facts that you think you know so much about these stadiums until you sit down and you work on them and you start interacting with Cubs fans, you start interacting with Astros fans, whatever, and you start learning so much more about these stadiums and how they connect with people and all the interesting factoids that you learn about that you couldn't have learned, you wouldn't have known about until you focused on that stadium for 2 or 3 weeks or months at a time.
When you did the Astrodome, how many people asked where you were putting the trash cans?
Oh my God, that's enough. That would be the second most common. Like
exhausting.
Like, come on, like first off,
get clever, people.
That yeah, hilarious. That happened at Minute Maid Ballpark. Okay, you're like 20 years behind the time. Let alone like, yeah, I don't like that they cheated, whatever. But yeah, like come up with something original. Come on.
Hey, as a screenwriter, I've started judging the comments based on their creativity.
Yeah.
So about average, how long does it take for you to build one?
So before quarantine, I told you, I think before we started recording, I'm a teacher. I would just work on these for like an hour a night, maybe 5 or 6 nights a week, and they take me 2 to 3 months. But now this is almost like my full-time job where I'm pretty much doing it all day, and I can turn them out in about 2 or 3 weeks. Oh,
wow. So what has been the most complicated one you've done?
It has to be the Astrodome. The biggest thing being the roof, which it only took me 2 or 3 days to make the roof, but like understand, like that was the first time I've worked in 4 dimensions. You know, everything I've done so far has been in 3 dimensions, but you talk about making a sphere, like almost half of a sphere. That was the first time I had to work in 4 dimensions, and figuring that out and figuring out how it's really just a bunch of triangles. That was kind of the fun part. And it was very challenging, but very rewarding to see the end product of it.
I just have to imagine, like, I mean, you have to be, I'm assuming you're doing a lot of pre-viz stuff. You're sketching it out. You're really working through it.
Yeah. So there's a website called Clem's Ballpark Blog. And if anybody Googles that, you got to be prepared that you're going to waste the next 2 or 3 hours of your life, because it is a treasure trove. And I don't know the guy. I'm not associated with them, but any big league park that's ever existed, he basically has a blueprint of them. So that's the number one resource I use. And then, it's mapping out what I'm going to do. And sometimes I sit down and I plan out what I'm going to do. And then at some point I just, just wing it. And I usually figure it out on the way.
And so, like, for people that want to get a stadium done, they can DM you on Twitter and you guys will do a negotiation. Have there been any that you've been commissioned to do that you've been like, I don't know, man, I kind of want to keep this stadium?
Oh, man. The ball card Kaufman I'm building right now, I was going to sell it. I didn't get commissioned for that one. I was going to sell it, but I think I'm going to keep it and give it to my dad for Father's Day. So giving up the Astrodome was pretty hard because that was such a fun one to do. The lights on Yankee Stadium was kind of hard to do. I'm going to be doing Dodger Stadium soon, and that's one of my favorite big league ballparks. So when I'm done with that, it's going to be hard to send that off also.
And I guess, so now that you've done an Astrodome, if another Astros fans commissions you, do you think you would do another one? Or is it kind of like, I want to move on to something to keep you kind of creatively going?
Well, artistically, I think it would be hard to do it again. But at the same time, there's like the scoreboard. It would be fun to do it again with the exploding scoreboard before the expansion. And then there's also things that after you do a project, you can look back at it and realize, I should have done this, or that to make it better. So doing a stadium again doesn't really bother me, especially if the money's there.
Hey,
I'm going to be doing Memorial Stadium again. So that'll come on later on this summer. I'm doing it to give to a charity auction. So doing a stadium again is fun. Mainly, like I said, as I've done this, I've learned ways that I can improve, not just on the specific stadium, but just like my own construction techniques. So it'd be fun to do another Astrodome the same way I'm doing Wrigley Field again also. So just learning better construction techniques and then trying them out in the same stadium is something I look forward to.
Well, that's awesome, Trey. So where can everybody find your I will put your Twitter link, but where can everybody find your website to check out what you've done?
Yeah. So my best portfolio is going to be Twitter. There's so many photos that I've posted on there. My YouTube is another great source because every time I finish a stadium, I put out a 5 to 10 minute video, a little bit of the building process, and then the final product video. So if you go to my YouTube, there's finished stadiums playlist, I believe. And that's just youtube.com/c/paper stadiums. It's there's not too many paper stadiums out there, so it's pretty easy to find. And then if you're more of a Facebook person or an Instagram person, I have Facebook and Instagram, and just look for paper stadiums, and you should see a picture of me holding Memorial Stadium inside Memorial Stadium. So.
Well, we'll put all the links. I will say this. One of the things I think is pretty cool scrolling through your Twitter is you're pretty supportive of other people who are also trying to do this. I think that's something just as sort of as an aside to your character in 2020. That's pretty awesome that you're pretty supportive of other people.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's kind of, I was actually talking with somebody that today, and I was talking like, it's kind of cool thinking that maybe I'm creating a whole nother category of crafting. Like, if I could be the person that invented craft booking or the person that invented this, maybe I'm the guy that invented making paper stadiums. And if I can encourage other people to do that, and I'll give them all the advice they need. And somebody always asks, well, what if they make better stadiums than you? Then it's like, well, then I guess that'll just drive me to get better. So I think it's a great thing. If this becomes a thing where there's thousands of other people out there making their own paper stadiums, that'd be awesome to know that I started that.
And now on to close it out, the right-hander from Houston, Texas, James Christopher.
So as we wrap up, I do want to tell you guys a little bit about something that happened to me this weekend, something that was really touching and was so impactful at a time when it seemed like 2020 has just been nothing but negative. So I want to do a special shout out to Carter Merkling of the Gahanna Lions 11 under travel team. Here's Carter.
Hey, Sergeant D. I'm going to be wearing your jersey for this year. And thank you for your service.
So my buddy Jim Higgins is his coach. Jim is a filmmaker and also a current veteran. And I guess he'd coordinated this with my wife back in December about having my name on one of the jerseys to honor service. And I just had no idea. And I get this text message, and I'm not going to lie, like I was definitely moved and just kind of sat there and I think choked on the words, "This is the coolest thing," for about a minute and a half, trying to express it. It just means so much to see that and to know that that's appreciated. So Carter, we want to wish you the best luck. Now Let's Get Two is the official podcast of the Gahanna Lions 11 under travel team. We hope you guys check in, and we'll have some of y'all on the show just to see how your season's going. So we do have another episode planned on Friday. Hopefully we'll have some actual insight into what baseball will look like this year. So until next time, everybody stay home, stay safe, keep listening. And until next time, let's get two.